If your best BFF cheated on you and was pregnant with your fiancé's child, would you forgive them both? Something like that just happened to me. On the eve of my engagement party, my dear best friend dropped a bombshell she was pregnant, and the child was my fiancé's, as they stood before me. Radiating awkwardness, I was surprisingly calm. How was this even possible? I distinctly remembered Chad's fertility test results showing a sperm count of 0. We'd been together for over a year, and I was busy putting the final touches on the engagement party. The irony was rich. I was running around, practically rolling out the red carpet for someone else. Simply put, my best friend was pregnant with my fiancé's child, and there they were, standing in front of me, looking even more uncomfortable than I felt. Harper, I'm so sorry. We couldn't help ourselves. And we didn't expect it to happen so quickly, Brittany said, her voice trembling. Yeah, Chad mumbled, hanging his head in embarrassment. I didn't know I was so potent. Watching Chad squirm, I didn't know whether to pity him or myself. Was I supposed to be heartbroken over my fiancé's infidelity? Or furious at my best friend's betrayal? Neither. I clearly remembered Chad's prenuptial medical report stating, Chad's mom and I both knew about this, but we were afraid he wouldn't be able to handle it, so we never dared to tell him. Happened so quickly? It was laughable. Harper, don't laugh like that. I know you're upset, but there's nothing we can do. I'll make it up to you. You know my mom has always wanted a grandchild, Chad said, trying to comfort me clumsily. My best friend nodded along, putting on a pitiful act. Harper, it's all my fault. I should have gotten an abortion. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. The baby needs a father. And just like that, my engagement party became their engagement party. My thoughtful best friend even went ahead and put on my wedding dress. The irony was off the charts. The engagement date hadn't changed. The wedding dress hadn't changed. The guests hadn't changed. The only thing that had changed was the bride. Even more ridiculous, 3 days later, I received their wedding invitation, and I, the original bride-to-be, actually showed up at their wedding. Chad's mom just flew back from Europe today, and after learning the truth, she grabbed my hand and pulled me into the back room. Harper, Chad was tricked by Brittany. This has to be a misunderstanding. There must be some kind of mistake. I looked at her, letting her clutch my hand tightly, saying nothing, because she and I both knew very well, Chad is infertile. So who is the father of Brittany's baby? It's definitely not Chad's. Knowing Chad couldn't have children, I still agreed to marry him. Of course, Chad's mom wouldn't let go of a daughter-in-law like me so easily. Chad's family is a bit old-fashioned, and the relatives are particularly gossipy. If they found out Chad was infertile and had been cheated on, who knows what kind of nasty rumors would spread. Not only would Chad be humiliated, but the entire Miller family would lose face. Chad, you must apologize to Harper. Break up with this woman immediately, and don't contact her again. Chad's mom roared. Chad walked over from the front, nonchalantly saying, Mom, what's wrong with you now? Haven't you always wanted a grandson? Brittany is pregnant. You're about to be a grandma. I sat to the side, coldly watching the drama unfold. Chad's mom was so angry her face turned white, and her voice rose several octaves. The surrounding guests were drawn to the commotion, and some who didn't hear clearly even moved chairs closer, wanting to practically stick their ears to their mouths. Mom, what are you doing? Haven't you always wanted a grandson? Although I messed up with Harper first, Harper's family isn't thrilled with me either. So isn't this perfect? Chad tried to argue. Bullshit. You, take off that wedding dress. Take it off. Chad's mom went crazy, rushing up to tear at the wedding dress on Brittany, because it was a strapless style. Brittany nearly exposed herself, letting out a scream that drew everyone's attention. Mom, what are you doing? Brittany is pregnant. There are so many relatives here. Let everyone be the judge. Chad shouted loudly, all right, let the kids sort things out themselves. An elderly woman who looked like a relative said, it was a happy day. What are you doing? Haven't you always wanted a grandson? Now that Brittany is pregnant, aren't you happy? Another relative chimed in. The relatives were all talking at once, and Chad's mom was so angry she couldn't say a word. She knew these relatives' nature all too well. If they found out Chad had cheated, the mistress was pregnant, and Chad was infertile, they would laugh their heads off. Therefore, Chad's mom didn't dare to speak, and absolutely couldn't reveal the truth, Harper. Did you say something to my mom? Haven't you always looked down on me? Then why are you still clinging to me? Are you happy now that things have turned out like this? Chad suddenly turned his anger towards me. You guys practically shoved the invitation in my face, insisting that I come to the wedding. Chad, get your facts straight. Brittany and I are the ones who extended the invitation. I retorted without backing down, otherwise he would have completely twisted the truth, and I wouldn't be able to withstand the barrage of criticism from his relatives. What, is it because Brittany is pregnant with my child that you're jealous? Chad looked at me provocatively. Jealous? Oh, I'm just so incredibly jealous. I'm about to die laughing. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. What do you mean? What are you laughing at? You. Chad looked at me, confused. Smack. Chad's mom understood the implication of my words and slapped Chad hard across the face. Enough. Apologize to Harper right now. Everyone was stunned by this sudden turn of events, completely bewildered. I didn't want to get involved any further, so I made an excuse and left. Later that evening, Brittany suddenly came to see me. She put on a pitiful act, her big, watery eyes glistening with tears. Harper, are you still mad at me? I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't even know I was going to get pregnant. It's all my fault, all my fault. I was fiddling with the fence in the yard, without even looking up, and asked, whose child is it really? Of course it's Chad's. That night he had too much to drink, came in and just grabbed me, tearing at my clothes. Brittany choked up, but when she got to this point, she seemed to realize she'd let something slip, and quickly shut her mouth. I looked up and gave her a cold look. You don't have to pretend anymore. This child is definitely not Chad's. How could that be? Do you think I wouldn't even know who the father of my own child is? I only slept with Chad last month, and more than once. Harper, I know you're hurting right now. But the baby is innocent. He needs a father, doesn't he? I put down the tools in my hand, stood up, and looked at her sharply. You probably don't know this, but Chad's premarital checkup showed that he's infertile, and it's the irreversible kind. Brittany frowned at first, seeming a bit incredulous. But soon her face turned ashen, and her voice trailed off. I don't know what she was thinking. She bit down hard on her lip, not even reacting when she broke the skin. No, that's impossible. It's definitely Chad's baby. Chad himself said so. Why would he claim it if it wasn't his? What if he doesn't even know the truth about his own body? Brittany seemed to lose her strength, taking a step back and leaning against the fence. You're lying to me. You just want me to break up with Chad, right? Why do you think your aunt had such a drastic change in temperament at the engagement party today? This is something only the two of us know. I can prove it. I turned around and saw Chad's mom. My front yard isn't big, but there were quite a few people there. You're carrying a bastard. It's definitely not a Miller child. A woman as promiscuous as you could never marry into our family. You don't have to be so harsh. Harper has told me what the Miller relatives are like. The reason you didn't dare confront me at the wedding is because you're afraid the Millers and Chad couldn't handle the gossip, right? You don't need to worry about whose child it is. Either way, he'll be born with the Miller name, so he's a Miller pa. Shameless. Get out of the Miller family right now. Get a divorce tomorrow. At this point, Brittany seemed to have the upper hand, completely lacking the panic she had just shown. No, there's no way I'm leaving Chad. Either you tell Chad the truth now, or you accept this child anyway. Chad can't have children in his life. It's a win-win for both of us. Isn't it? Chad's mom's face turned ashen with anger, her hand shaking as she pointed at Brittany, her lips turning purple, and a little white foam appearing at the corners of her mouth. You viper! May you die a horrible death? After saying that, her vision went black, and she collapsed right there in my garden. By the time I frantically dialed 911, Brittany was already gone. After thinking it over, I decided not to go to the hospital with the ambulance. They'll contact Chad anyway. I went back inside to sleep, and I felt like I had just closed my eyes when someone outside started yelling. I went out onto the balcony and saw Chad, cursing up a storm. Chad, what the hell are you yelling about? Harper Sullivan, what the hell did you say to my mom? You upset her so much that she was admitted to the hospital. She's still in the ICU. The doctors have been working on her for 3 hours, and she still hasn't woken up. Just because I didn't marry you, you're taking revenge on me, taking revenge on my mom. What kind of ability is that? He really knows how to pat himself on the back. What does your mom's hospitalization have to do with me? If I hadn't called the ambulance, she would have kicked the bucket a long time ago. That's bull. My mom fainted here yesterday. Why did you call her over? What exactly did you say to her? Chad was so angry that his neck was red. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was holding a knife. My front door is tall and secure. I'm not scared at all. I immediately drew the curtains and dialed 911. In less than 15 minutes, the police arrived. After understanding the situation, they took Chad away from my doorstep. I stood on the balcony, watching Chad still struggling down there. No way, she's definitely involved in this. She's the one to blame. I demand she pay for all my mom's medical expenses. Harper, I'm going to sue you. I shook my head and shouted downstairs. Brittany Davis was also there at the time. Why don't you go home and ask her what really happened? You're still trying to drive a wedge between Brittany and me? She's your best friend. You're such a wicked woman. This is just unbelievable. I turned around and went back inside, ignoring Chad. Soon, he was taken away by the police as well. I heard he refused to cooperate and made a scene at the police station, resulting in him being detained for 5 days. What's even more outrageous is that the hospital actually called me. You're listed as daughter-in-law in the patient's phone. Come to the hospital quickly. Your mother-in-law is in serious condition. If you have any conscience at all, come and see her. Beep beep beep. I was completely dumbfounded, listening to the dial tone on the phone. And just like that, I took care of her in the hospital for 5 days. On the 5th day, I finally left. I ran into Chad and Brittany as soon as I walked out of the hospital doors. Brittany, thank you so much for taking care of my mom these past few days, Chad said with deep affection. Huh? Brittany stammered, looking confused. Don't even pretend. I know everything. The nurse told me that the patient's daughter-in-law has been taking care of her all these days. Brittany, you're such a good woman, Chad said, lost in his own emotions. Brittany gave an awkward smile. Oh, it was nothing. It's the least I could do. How fake, I scoffed. Drawing their attention, Harper, what are you doing here? Chad asked with a hostile tone. Are you here to see my mom? What did you do to her? I'm warning you, if anything happens to her, I will never let you off the hook. With that, Chad stormed up the stairs, heading back to the ward. It seemed Brittany looked at me, hesitant, wanting to take my hand, but I dodged her touch. Harper, I know you're still mad at me, but you have to understand, I had no choice. If it weren't for this, I might not even be alive today. Brittany sobbed. Whose child are you carrying? I asked point blank. Harper, can you please stop pressuring me? It's all my fault. I'm sorry, but you have to believe me. I had my reasons. Brittany continued to play the victim. Even though Brittany was crying her eyes out, I didn't soften at all. Whose child is it really? She was probably startled by my sudden increase in volume. She trembled and took a step back. I strode forward and grabbed her wrist. You know this isn't Chad's baby, so why didn't you get an abortion? You used to say that even if you were desperate, you wouldn't go after my boyfriend, and that you wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. Brittany Davis. What's with the innocent act? Brittany hasn't dated much, and she's always kept a respectful distance from her male friends, so I don't even know whose child it is. Judging by her previous reaction, she might have initially thought the baby was Chad's. Harper, please stop pushing me. I won't say. I'm really going to break down. Are you really so cruel as to push me to the brink? Brittany said, her voice cracking. What could be more devastating than your best friend and boyfriend standing in front of you, telling you they're expecting? I retorted mercilessly. I forcefully shook off Brittany's hand, and a red mark instantly appeared on her fair wrist. Harper, I really didn't mean to steal your boyfriend. It was just a moment of weakness. Brittany was still trying to explain. Enough. I interrupted her. Why didn't you admit to going to my house 5 nights ago? Brittany Davis, this is a thinly veiled frame-up. And in these 5 days, have you shown your face at the hospital for even a second? I continued to question her. Harper, don't be angry. Calm down. You and Chad have already reached this point. And I need him more than you do. You taking care of his mom is probably just out of obligation. I told a little white lie. You wouldn't call me out on it, right? Brittany tried to cover up the truth with lies. You're really the best friend a girl could ask for, I said with a cold laugh. Just then, Chad stormed over, raising his hand to slap me. What did you do to Brittany? I dodged quickly, grabbed the disinfectant from the windowsill, and threw it at him. With a thud, a large bump immediately swelled up on Chad's head. Guys who hit women are scum, and you weren't a great guy to begin with. Let me tell you, Brittany's baby isn't yours, Harper. Brittany looked at me with teary eyes. Harper, why would you say that about me? We've known each other for so long, honey. Do you believe me? Chad looked at Brittany pathetically. Silly. Of course I believe you. How could I believe this crazy woman? She's just trying to stir up trouble. Do I not know in my heart if the baby in my belly is yours or not? Seeing Chad acting like such a fool, I couldn't help but laugh. Okay, it's your baby. Of course, it's your baby, Chad. You must treat them well. Mother and child, when the truth comes out, when your mom wakes up, you must remember how you are today. Chad is still clueless right now. Not picking up on what I'm implying. Of course, it's my baby. You can't have kids. You're useless. You're a barren hen. I nodded, wondering if I should hope his mom recovers soon or hope she never wakes up so he can keep being wrong. I went home and enjoyed a few peaceful days. But then that scumbag couple came to disgust me again. Early in the morning, there was a commotion outside, along with the sound of a large truck. I went outside to take a look, and it turned out the neighbors next door were moving. I was about to turn around and go back to sleep when something caught the corner of my eye. I turned around and saw Brittany and Chad standing not far away, looking at me sarcastically. Harper, you're awake. We're going to be neighbors now. Chad bought a house here especially for me and insisted on living next door to you, Brittany said with a fake smile. Are you doing this on purpose to disgust me? I retorted bluntly. Chad walked forward 2 steps impatiently. Harper, watch your mouth. Who was it that said they wanted to live with Brittany and buy the house next door? Now that Brittany has fulfilled your wish, what are you being so sarcastic about? I cleaned out my ears, leaned against the doorframe, and said casually, I remember Brittany used to say that if my boyfriend cheated on me, she would castrate him for me. What's the matter? Aren't you going to make good on that promise now? Brittany Davis, get to it. Hearing my words, Brittany's face turned awkward instantly, and even Chad was speechless. Harper, who is it? A lazy male voice came from inside the house, and then Alex, rubbing his sleepy eyes, walked out of my house. He naturally put his hand on my shoulder and casually glanced at the 2 people across from us. Who are they? Do you even know them? Ex-boyfriend. Didn't you say he died in a car accident? I cleared my throat awkwardly. Chad walked over to the fence between our yards, reached his hand over to my side, pointed at us, and yelled, Harper Sullivan, you've got some nerve, moving in together so soon. Actually, standing next to me was my smart-mouthed brother, who my parents were too lazy to deal with these past few days, so he came over to freeload at my place. Alex retorted without hesitation, who's faster than you? The kid's practically about to pop out and get your paws off the fence, or I'll break them for you, cuckold. Chad's face turned green with anger, and he started jumping up and down, yelling, What did you say? Say that again. Who's the cuckold? We went back inside, and Alex flopped onto the sofa. What's with your taste in friends? You made 2, and they both ran off hand in hand. I rolled my eyes speechlessly. But I've seen that girl with him before, just last night, Alex said suddenly. Huh? Weren't you home all last night? I asked, puzzled. Alex smiled mysteriously. If you treat me to something good to eat, I'll tell you. I rolled my eyes at him. Trying to trick me? No way! With that, I turned to go back upstairs. Don't you even want to know whose kid she's carrying? Alex said softly behind me. His words stopped me in my tracks, and I almost missed a step. I quickly turned around and looked at him in disbelief. Alex raised his eyebrows at me. Let's go. I've already made a reservation. Alex Sullivan, if you're lying to me, you're dead. I grabbed my bag and stormed out the door after him. In the neighboring yard, Chad was holding Brittany's belly, listening to something. Hey, what are you listening to? Alex was acting crazy again. I really don't get why he's going over there to chat with them at a time like this. Brittany said with a smile, he wants the baby to call him dad, This kid's so silly, right, Chad? I got into the car, thinking this farce was finally over, but Alex rolled down the window and yelled at the two of them. Dream on! There's no way they're calling me dad, maybe uncle. With that, Alex slammed on the gas and took off. On the way to Ruby Tuesday, my mind was a mess, and I kept wondering whose kid Brittany was carrying. I barely ate a couple of bites before I couldn't eat anymore, but Alex was still there. Chewing slowly. Waiter, 2 more steaks. Alex shouted without any hesitation. I glared at him, annoyed, but he didn't even notice and continued to devour his food. Hey, you little rascal, you're not trying to pull a fast one on me, are you? I couldn't help but ask. Can't you trust your own brother for once? All right, since you're so curious, I'll do you a solid and tell you. Before this, I'd only heard you mention the name Brittany Davis and only seen your photos together on your social media just last night. My buddies were sharing some scandalous pics in our group chat, and guess what? One of the girls was your dear bestie, Brittany Davis. Hearing that, my ears perked up immediately. Seriously? Scandalous pics? You mean, like, those kinds of pics? No way! Brittany doesn't seem like the type to mess around like that. Alex gnawed on a chicken leg, casually scrolling through his phone. Ding! I immediately grabbed my phone. Alex had sent me a photo. I opened it, and holy crap! I thought it accidentally stumbled onto some adult website. See it clearly now? Finally believe what kind of person your bestie really is. Alex whistled, looking at me with a playful smirk. In the photo, only half of Brittany's face was visible, but her sultry eyes, seductive pose, and coy expression left no doubt it was her. Forget about it. That was a month ago. Brittany contacted my buddies, crying about being pregnant. The jerks not only refused to take responsibility but also scraped together some cash to try and get rid of her. But the hospital said her situation was unique, and if she terminated the pregnancy, she might never be able to have kids. That's why she latched onto Chad like a leech. Here, check out these chat logs. I took the phone, scrutinizing the photos and chat logs as thoroughly as I did when writing my thesis back in college. Turns out, Brittany got wasted and crashed my buddy's party. After one too many drinks, things got out of hand, and she ended up hooking up with a few different guys. So, she has no idea who the father of the baby actually is, and what a coincidence, not long after, she got together with Chad, which is why she initially thought the baby was his. Your ex-boyfriend is quite the sucker. Or rather, a worthy cuckold. Alex shook his head, a hint of mockery in his tone. I never imagined the truth would be like this. No wonder Brittany always had that look on her face whenever I asked her about it, like she wanted to say something but couldn't. Am I supposed to feel sorry for her? Absolutely not. I remember you saying your good-for-nothing ex-boyfriend was, like, infertile, right? Does he know about this? I asked. Yeah, only he and his mom know. That's why his mom has always been so afraid to leave Chad. So she's been bending over backward to make me happy every day. She's been in the hospital these past few days, and Chad's gonna have a tough time when she wakes up, Alex said with a smirk. After paying the bill, we went straight home. Unexpectedly, Brittany and Chad were also in the yard, planting flowers side by side. I glanced at Alex. Knowing this kid was about to stir up trouble again, I heard that a woman got drunk at Whiskey a Go-Go the other day and slept with a bunch of guys, and now she's pregnant. Geez, people these days are such a mess. Harper, you gotta be careful when you go out, and remember to bring me along. I'll protect you, Alex said sarcastically. After speaking, Alex deliberately turned his head and gave Chad a meaningful look. Right, Chad? If Brittany could pretend not to understand what he said earlier, then Alex's words now were just blatant mockery. Chad glared at Alex fiercely. He'd been provoked by Alex a lot these past few days and had been holding in a lot of anger. Now that he finally had the chance, he wouldn't let it go easily. In comparison, Brittany's reaction seemed much calmer. She looked flustered and kept avoiding Alex's gaze. As if she couldn't bear to meet his eyes, Alex, being the jerk that he is, leaned against Chad's fence, squinting his eyes and asking, "Isn't that right, Ms. Davis?" Hearing this, Brittany's face instantly turned as pale as a sheet, and even her fingers lost their color. She staggered back to steps, and her eyes gradually filled with tears. Finally, she sat weakly on the swing behind her, subconsciously covering her stomach with her hands. The unsuspecting Chad thought Brittany was just frightened by Alex and quickly asked with concern, Brittany, are you okay? Did this crazy guy scare you? Should we go to the hospital? Brittany, don't scare me like that. I was going to watch the drama a bit longer, but that jerk Alex grabbed me and dragged me away. As soon as we got inside, we heard a hysterical shouting match outside. Harper Sullivan. You vicious bitch! Alex tugged at me. All right. That's enough. It's getting old. Let's just go back inside before that psycho rubs off on us. I nodded and turned to head upstairs. Oh, and Chad's mom is supposedly about to wake up, Alex said suddenly. I whipped around, asking incredulously, really? How do you know that? Well, my college roommate's family owns that hospital, so I asked him to check it out. Alex shrugged, acting all nonchalant. I gave him a thumbs up and went back to my room to get some sleep, feeling pretty good about things. I was exhausted after a long day, and I fell asleep quickly. When I woke up the next morning, I saw that Brittany had sent me several texts last night. These texts went on until 3. I turned her down flat. I didn't expect Brittany to show up at my doorstep around noon. Alex answered the door. What are you doing here? Brittany's tone was clearly displeased when she saw Alex. Where's Harper? I need to see Harper Sullivan. Brittany shouted from outside. Get lost. Alex snapped back without hesitation. I need to see Harper. What gives you the right to stop me? I'm telling you, I'm pregnant right now. If you lay a hand on me, Chad will make you pay. Brittany threatened, trying to sound tough but clearly shaken. Chad? What's he gonna do? Tell the baby's real daddy to come find us. Alex scoffed. What? What are you implying? Brittany was instantly flustered. I had just come downstairs when I heard Alex and Brittany arguing heatedly. I quickly went over to see what was going on. Alex suddenly smirked, like, Jake? Or Tom? Maybe. Kyle? Brittany's face grew paler with each name Alex said. Stop it. Please, just stop. Brittany cried out, breaking down. She saw me and, like a drowning person grabbing at a straw, rushed in. Harper, you wouldn't sell me out, would you? Brittany clutched my hand tightly, her eyes pleading. I'd love for you to raise this kid until they're 18, and I'd be even happier to see you get dumped by Chad. If I exposed you now, wouldn't that be letting you off too easy? I shrugged, looking totally nonchalant. Hearing my words, Brittany visibly relaxed, but she still looked at me with some suspicion, as if trying to read my face. How did you find out? Was it you? Did you tell Chad? Who else did you tell? Who all did you tell? Brittany suddenly grabbed Alex's arm, questioning her agitedly. Alex shook her off without any mercy, and even dusted off her sleeve with disgust. Are you crazy? Your photos and videos have already gone viral. You can find them with a simple online search. Did you really think I needed to go around spreading them? No! That's impossible! I don't believe it. You must be lying to me. Brittany screamed. Ah, you're unbelievable. Alex rolled her eyes. She suddenly grabbed Alex's arm, questioning her agitatedly. Alex shook her off without any mercy, and even dusted off her sleeve with disgust. Are you out of your mind? Those photos and videos of yours have already spread like wildfire. You can find them with a simple search online. Did you really think I needed to go around advertising them? No! That's impossible! I'm going to sue you. I'll sue you until you're penniless. Brittany shouted hoarsely. Lady, are you nuts? Most of those videos are ones you recorded yourself on your phone. Go ahead and sue. You might even find out who the kid's real dad is in the process. Then you can get child support. A win-win, right? Alex shrugged. Looking totally indifferent, Brittany's face turned green with anger, and she staggered out of my house. I shrugged and turned to go back upstairs. I'm a freelancer, and it's boring staying home all day, so I idly flipped through my WeChat from college. That's when I discovered that the class group chat had already exploded. I don't know who leaked the news, but everyone is now discussing how my best friend and fiancé teamed up to cheat on me. I haven't used this WeChat account in ages because it was hacked once. And I haven't really touched it since I got it back. I never expected to log in today and stumble upon my own drama. I slowly typed out a line. Me, a 3-year lurker, suddenly popping up caused an uproar in the group chat. The screen instantly flooded with OMG. Holy crap, what the hell? And other exclamations. A bombshell dropped, and classmates immediately started tagging Chad and Brittany. After a while, Chad seemed to finally crack and sent a message, Chad Miller, and then the entire university group chat exploded. Seeing Chad's reply, I nodded in satisfaction and turned off my phone. I nodded in satisfaction and turned off my phone. This is so exciting. This feeling is absolutely amazing. About a week later, Alex suddenly rushed back in from outside. Sis, Chad's mom woke up. He said, out of breath, what? I jumped out of bed, really? Did Chad go to the hospital? Yeah, he just got there. Alex nodded with certainty. I immediately smiled. Do the math, Brittany's baby is probably 5 or 6 months along, right? Around there, Alex shrugged, looking like he was ready to watch a good show. I happily turned on the TV, ready to enjoy the drama. That afternoon, Brittany suddenly came banging on my door, looking furious. As soon as the door opened, she yelled at me, her eyes red. It's you. You're the one who told Chad, aren't you? Harper Sullivan. I hate you. I hate you so much. My baby hates you too. Why would you do this? Chad's starting to suspect me. He says he can't even have kids. You're so evil. I sat on the couch, calmly turning to look at her. Oh, really? Chad's mom woke up, didn't you know? Oh, almost forgot to tell you. When Chad and I went for premarital testing, his mom went with me to get the results, so she knows about it better than anyone. I added deliberately, no, this is impossible. How could she wake up? The doctor clearly said she only had a 20% chance of waking up. Brittany shook her head in disbelief. I smiled slightly, ignored her, and stood up, ready to leave. Seeing that I was about to leave, Brittany immediately asked vigilantly, where are you going? What are you planning to do? I glanced back at Alex, who was winking at me, and said with a smile, of course, I'm going to watch a good show. Come on, you can join me. With that, I grabbed Alex's arm and dragged him out the door with me. As soon as we stepped out of the house, we saw Chad slowly approaching from a distance, pushing a wheelchair with his mother sitting in it. Mom, what exactly are you trying to say? I already told you. The doctor must have made a mistake. I'm infertile. So where did the child in Brittany's belly come from? Did I just conjure it out of thin air? Chad said, his voice filled with frustration. Chad's mother's expression was serious, her pale face filled with anger. I'd also like to know where the child in her belly came from. Harper, you're here too. That's great. Let's get everything out in the open today. Chad perked up when he saw me. Chad nodded. That's right. Now that Harper is here, let's settle all the old scores. You scoundrel! Don't you dare point your finger at Harper, or I'll break your legs. Chad's mother roared. Mom, Chad said with a grievance, don't call me Mom. It's all because of you, insisting on marrying this promiscuous woman, that things have turned out this way. My hospitalization was caused by her. That night, I went to find Harper, wanting her to come back to our family. But this woman not only provoked Harper but also admitted that the child in her belly wasn't yours at all. Chad's mother became increasingly agitated as she spoke. Chad wasn't stupid. He could sense that his mother was very emotional and that she seemed to be hiding something from him. Mom, I really can't have children? Chad asked, his voice trembling. Chad's mother took out a document from her bag and handed it to Chad. This is the test report I had you do this morning. The results are exactly the same as the premarital checkup. Harper doesn't mind that you can't have children. But you insisted on pushing her away and marrying such a shameless woman. Chad took the report with trembling hands, carefully reading the contents, his face growing paler and paler. No, this is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Brittany Davis, even if you insist on having this baby, we Millers can afford to raise it. But after the baby is born, we're getting a paternity test right away. If it turns out it's not Chad's, I swear, I'll spend every last penny I have to sue you into the ground. Chad's mom said viciously. Hearing this, Brittany suddenly clutched her stomach and laughed hysterically. That's right. I'll tell you the truth. The baby in my belly isn't Chad's at all. Brittany's words were like a bolt from the blue, instantly shocking Chad to his core. So what if it isn't? We're meant to be together. He can't even have kids. And I can give him a child, so he can experience being a dad. Otherwise, he'll never hear a child call him dad in his life. Chad Miller, you're already a loser. What right do you have to be picky? I'm marrying you and willing to give you a child. You should be grateful. Brittany screamed hysterically. Chad seemed to have suffered a huge blow, and he was staggering. He sat powerlessly on the ground, his expensive suit pants covered in dirt. Under the double blow, Chad was in a daze. His hand trembled as he frantically searched for his phone. Finally found a photo, grabbed Brittany's hand, and shoved the phone screen in her face. So the person in this photo is you? I glanced at the photo. It was pretty explicit, only showing a small part of Brittany's profile. Where did you get this photo? Delete it! Delete it now! Brittany screamed in terror. Brittany's words, though not an explicit admission, effectively confirmed everything. Chad's hand gripping the phone gradually turned white. He stared blankly at Brittany and said in a hoarse voice, "If it weren't for these photos, maybe I really would have chosen to believe you. And just pretended nothing happened, Chad. What do you mean? Are you going to dump me? Are you really going to abandon me and our baby?" Hearing Chad say this, Brittany panicked. Seeing Chad remain silent, Brittany quickly grabbed his arm and pleaded bitterly, "No, Chad, you can't do this to me. I can have the baby and never tell you the truth. That way, you can live in happiness forever. And, even if we're not blood related, over time, he'll really be like your own son. Chad, please, don't leave me, okay?" I stood aside, silently watching the farce unfold before me. A faint smile playing on my lips, I knew the real show was just beginning. With that thought, I secretly turned on the video recording function on my phone, aiming the lens at them. "Oops!" I exclaimed deliberately. Hearing my voice, everyone turned to look at me, puzzled. I quickly flashed an apologetic smile and explained, "Oh, my bad." My finger slipped, and I think I accidentally posted this video to the university alumni group Harper Sullivan. "Are you still trying to get revenge on me? How shameless can you be?" Hearing my words, Brittany completely broke down, screaming at me at the top of her lungs. "Shouldn't I be getting revenge on you? Or should I be thanking you? Thanking you for stealing my fiancé. Thanking you for carrying my fiancé's child. The two people I trusted most in this world teamed up to betray me. I'm so touched. Thank you, my dear best friend. Thank you for showing me Chad's true colors and for allowing me to finally get rid of him and find my own happiness," I retorted without backing down. Hearing my accusations, tears welled up in Chad's mom's eyes. She looked at me with pleading eyes. "Harper, for my sake, please forgive Chad this time. He just made a foolish mistake, Chad. What are you waiting for? Get down on your knees and apologize to Harper." Perhaps due to the blow of infertility, Chad's self-esteem was severely damaged. Under his mother's pressure, he actually knelt down, trembling. "Harper, I'm so sorry. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. You can hit me. You can scold me." Chad lowered his head, pleading in anguish. I immediately shook my head, a mocking smile appearing on my face. "Sorry, I can't accept your apology. After all, what did I do wrong? If anyone's at fault, it's me, this barren hen, for not being able to keep your heart, right?" Hearing me say that, a flicker of panic crossed Chad's face, and he quickly explained, "No, Harper, you're misunderstanding. I didn't mean that. Enough." Brittany suddenly shrieked, interrupting Chad. She glared at me and said sharply, "Harper, do you have to take everything away from me?" Just as Chad was about to say something, Alex, who had been standing beside me, suddenly moved. He launched a kick, landing squarely on Chad's shoulder. Caught off guard, Chad let out a scream and crashed to the ground. Seeing Chad fall, Chad's mom panicked. She quickly maneuvered her wheelchair, trying to rush over and help her son up. "Mom, don't get worked up. Take care of yourself," Alex said quickly, steadying Chad's mom's wheelchair. He added with a grin, "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I promise it won't be fatal." But as you can see, I heard Chad's desperate roars behind me, but I didn't stop for a second. From that moment on, I knew that Chad and Brittany's drama was finally over. In the days that followed, I rarely heard anything about them, until one day, I logged onto Facebook and discovered that Brittany had become the laughingstock of the entire school. The whole thing even trended on Twitter, sparking a frenzy of rubbernecking and ridicule. Netizens commented that Chad was completely asking for it, that he deserved everything he got. that he deserved to be cuckolded by Brittany, and some even mocked him as a last resort and a baby daddy, calling him the most tragic man in history. Perhaps unable to withstand the pressure from all sides, Chad's mental state deteriorated, and he became somewhat mentally impaired. Like a giant baby, completely unable to take care of himself. I heard that Chad was later sent to a mental hospital for treatment later. I had the chance to run into Chad again on the street. According to neighbors, he now wears adult diapers every day, calls everyone he meets honey, and often does things that are hard to fathom. I heard that recently. He flirted with a rich second-generation's girlfriend and ended up having 12 ribs broken, almost losing his life. Although he managed to survive, Chad completely lost his mind after that. Once, when I went grocery shopping, I happened to run into Brittany. She was holding a baby and picking out baby formula. I was going to pretend I didn't see her and walk away, but just then, a dark figure suddenly rushed out from the side and grabbed Brittany, shouting, "Honey, honey, give me a kiss. I want to kiss my honey. Aw, pervert, get off me. Help, help me." Brittany screamed in terror, "Honey, don't be like that. Give daddy a kiss." The lunatic laughed triumphantly and started forcibly kissing Brittany's cheek. Just then, a police car happened to be patrolling the area. Several officers heard Brittany's cries for help and rushed over, however. When they found Chad and Brittany's marriage certificate in the lunatic's pocket, they simply shrugged and walked away. I couldn't watch anymore. I quickly covered my ears and hurried into a nearby alley. I thought I heard Brittany's desperate screams. But I didn't look back or offer any help because I knew she deserved it. I heard Brittany's desperate cries and the sound of fabric tearing. I don't know what happened, and I didn't want to know. Daily updates of good quality romance novels. You are welcome to subscribe. The full text is finished.